the special meeting of the Charter Review Committee. It says we're recording.
No, yeah, not yet, not YouTube Live yet. Once we let the attendee in, you probably want to wait about 30.
Okay.
Kyle, if you, yeah, thank you. Jeremy, let Eileen know whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Charter Review Committee meeting. This is a special agenda, and it's for April 15th, 2021, and we're starting at 7:01. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll have a roll call of the charter members. Member Bowman.
Present.
Member Chomsky.
Present.
Member Danby.
Present.
Member Schneider.
Present.
And Member Tepper.
Present.
Thank you. We have no, the next agenda item is approval of minutes, of which there are none because there hasn't been a meeting for quite some time. So we will now move to announcements. And this is for staff and committee member announcements, reports, and updates of status of previous agenda items. No public comment is taken at the announcement period. Does anyone have any announcements they'd like to share? Okay, we'll move on to public comment. For people desiring to address the commission, committee, board on an item that is not on the agenda, please note that each speaker is limited to up to 3 minutes. The Brown Act limits the committee's ability to take and or answer a discussion or answer. How about I start again? I'm sorry. I got to get closer where I can read it. Oops. I'm sorry, no, there we go. The Brown Act limits the committee's ability to take and or discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, such items are normally referred to staff for comment or to a future agenda. I see no hands raised for public comments. Did anyone want to speak? Okay, we will continue. The next item is presentation. And since we have none yet this year, we're going to go ahead and move to the next item, which will be introduction of committee members and staff introductions. The Charter Review Committee, I have some announcements for you. The Charter Review Committee is a meeting that takes place on the third Thursday on the odd months at 7 p.m. unless a special meeting like this one is tonight is being held. The committee's purpose is to advise the City Council on proposed changes to the city charter. These proposed changes may be generated by the City Council or by the Charter Review Committee. The committee composition is 5 council appointees that serve on a 2-year term until the next municipal election. At this time, I will call on each member alphabetically to introduce themselves, share an item of interest, and or what serving on this committee means to each of the members. So alphabetically, we'll start with Member Bowman.
Sure, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle Bowman. I am originally from the Midwest, grew up in Ohio, spent some time also living in New England. I actually came out to California, Berkeley in particular, for grad school and fell in love with the region. Ended up deciding to settle down here long-term. I've lived in several East Bay cities, including Berkeley, Emeryville, Oakland, and most recently Albany, which I fell in love with during my time in grad school. Just a small town feel within a big, larger city. Bought a house here over the summer, and I've always felt the need to serve publicly and be engaged civically. I felt that calling, and this specific committee speaks to me because I think there's just an opportunity for transparency in government and civic engagement and responsibility. I guess professionally, I worked in patient access at a biotechnology company, Genentech. Prior to that, I had some experience at CVS Health and in consulting. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Chomsky?
Hi, everybody. I'm Harry Chomsky. I'm a freelance software developer, and I grew up in Massachusetts and moved to the Bay Area in 1989 and have lived here my whole adult life and lived in Albany since 2000. And I became involved first with Albany Strollers and Rollers, doing advocacy for biking and walking in Albany. And then after that, I joined the Transportation Commission, or what was then called the Traffic and Safety Commission, where I served for about 5 years. And then I joined Charter Review officially 2 years ago, although we didn't meet. Now I'm rejoining for this term. Glad to be having a meeting. One thing I was particularly interested in was voting methods, and I was involved in the campaign for the ranked choice voting that passed last year. So I understand that issue is no longer in the purview of the Charter Review Committee, but I'm definitely interested in whatever changes, tweaks we can make to make the government work as well as it can. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chomsky. Member Danby?
Yes, hi, Dave Danby here. And I have lived in Albany, now that I think about it, almost 40 years. Started off in UC Village, and then with a young family, kids go through the Albany schools, and I've stayed here all that time. My background started off as a music teacher, and I've been involved since then in the travel industry with student travel, a travel agency, and for the last 30 years until I retired, working in corporate travel with Bio-Rad Laboratories up in Hercules, California. And I'm now in retirement, looking forward to new challenges, and I'm curious to see what we can do to make things work better with the charter, and open to all ideas and suggestions from the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Danby. Member Schneider?
Hello. I have been on this committee since 2013, which is kind of amazing to me. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and I also came out to the greater Bay Area for graduate school and really, really loved it. And I am by training a lawyer, although I haven't practiced actively for a while. I worked as a senior compliance manager for a health insurance company. And I think one of the things that really draws me to work on this committee is I believe that the charter should be comprehensible to people. Anyone should be able to pick it up and read sections. So, you know, a lot of it is written, you know, in various styles that are a little inaccessible, but to the extent that revisions are made, I just want to make sure that it's done in a very clear way that is accessible to people as a matter of transparency.
Thank you, Member Schneider. Member Tepper?
Hi, y'all. I'm actually quite new to Albany. I just moved to California at the end of last year. I grew up mostly in Albany, New York, actually, with a 7-year pit stop in New Orleans in between. And I was working in local government in New Orleans for the last few years. Actually was working a lot on the city charter. And so this seemed like the most interesting way to get back into local government. So I'm excited for it.
Thank you, Member Tepper. Well, I welcome all of you. And it's nice to hear a little bit of the background and sharing your interests in things that you're looking for from our group. The next item is 6-2, which is the organization of officers, and the committee will select a chair and vice chair. At this time, annually at the first meeting of the year, there's an organization of the officers of the chair and vice chair in that order. You may nominate someone or you may nominate yourself. We will do nominations and voting for the chair first, then move on to nomination and voting for the vice chair. Voting will be verbal by verbal roll call for each nomination in the reverse order, beginning with the last nomination first until a majority of vote is reached for a nominee. And you may vote more than once. The chair will take over the meeting and call the nominations for the vice chair. The responsibilities I thought you might like to know before, if you want to nominate yourself, before you might want to know what you might be getting into. And out of the handbook, it has a great detail of what the role of the chairperson is, but I'll just cover a few highlights. You'll be helping to work with the agenda with staff on what agenda items are going to be on, making sure we have enough time for the meeting, that it covers the items that we do put on. We don't want to overload an agenda, but we also want to make sure we have enough that keeps our meeting going. You will be overseeing the meeting, and you'll be starting the meeting, making sure it starts on time. You will try to keep the discussions focused and fair. If we get off topic, we're not supposed to discuss things that are not topic related. And you can solicit opinions from all the members. And you're going to help with announcing decisions and that type of thing. So at this point in time, do you have any questions of just a brief overview for the chair? Of course, the vice chair will be helping, of course, with some of the items we want to put on the agenda. But should there be a reason for an absence in the position of the chair, the vice chair would be able to step in and help run the meetings. Okay, so at this time, I open for nominations for the position of chair.
I'll nominate Lisa Schneider.
I'll second that nomination just because of longevity.
And who said that, please? I was writing.
That was Kyle.
You, Kyle? Okay, thank you.
Just most experience.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Remember, you can nominate someone or you can nominate yourself.
I'd like to nominate Harry Chomsky, who also has a lot of experience.
Do I hear a second for the nomination?
Eileen, actually, for selection of officers, no second is necessary.
Oh, no second? Thank you. Anyone else? Without hearing any more nominations, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call for voting for the position of chair. We're going to start with the second nomination, which is Member Chomsky. And at this point in time, Member Chomsky, are you interested in being having this nomination?
I would prefer if someone else would do it, but if I can step up if everyone else is.
Well, we're getting ready
declines,
to we're getting ready to vote, and I just want to know that
Okay.
if you happen to be elected, you would be accepting the nomination.
Yeah, why don't I say that I will decline for now, and if the need arises, I can revise that opinion.
Okay, thank you. At this point in time, we're now going to go to the first nomination, and this was for Member Schneider. Member Schneider, are you interested in accepting the nomination?
Yeah.
Okay, at this time, I'll take a roll call vote. Member Bowman,
Aye.
Member Chomsky,
Aye.
Member Danby,
Aye.
Member Schneider,
Aye.
and Member Tepper. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. Congratulations, Member Snyder. You are now the chair of the Charter Review Committee for this year. At this point in time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you as being chair and let you run it from now, and go ahead and start opening for the nominations for vice chair.
Okay, thank you. And do I hear any nominations for the role of vice chair, either other people or yourself?
I nominate Member Tepper.
Are there any other nominations? Member Tepper, are you interested in being the vice chair?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Member Bowman,
Aye.
Member Chomsky,
Aye.
Member Danby,
Aye.
Member Snyder,
Aye.
and Member Tepper.
Aye.
Thank you.
I think the next item on our agenda is a discussion about potential items to include in the work plan. And I believe that the work plan is for the years of the current year through 2023.
Correct.
Not hearing anything, I just wanted to propose something that was either part of the work plan or certainly being actively discussed in 2018 before the hiatus began. And that was a proposal to consider lowering the voting age for at least for school board elections and possibly for city council elections too, down to the age of 16. And I think the original impetus for that idea was one of equity. And then there was a small subcommittee that was doing some research on it and came back a few times with some presentations to charter review, and they were also raising the possibility based on the experience of other cities or countries that had lowered the voting age, that there might be some long-term benefits in terms of increasing the likelihood that people who start voting at an early age will continue to vote with greater frequency. And there was also some discussion that maybe those same benefits could be achieved by early registration. And so I don't know whether there is any demand from the public at this point to continue looking into that. But, I just wanted to put that out there for your consideration.
I would think it would be a good thing for us to consider personally.
So when in this discussion do we take public comment? Since there wasn't a staff presentation to start off, are we?
Well, I don't see, we haven't called for any public comment, and I don't see where
It looks like we have one
forward.
attendee ready to comment.
That's up to the chair. You guys can start talking about the item a little bit and, mention your proposed item topics that you would like to include in the work plan, and then we can open up for the public, member of the public. So whenever the chair is ready to open up, just let us know.
Okay. Well, does anyone else on the committee at this point have anything they would like to say about whether to include that in the work plan?
The only question that I would have is what was the outcome of the previous discussions? Where did it go? What did we learn? That type of thing.
That is a good question. I don't think I'm not sure that there is anything definitive in the record. And maybe Anne or someone could help us find a way to look to see in the minutes whether there were any findings. It was really just being studied in this small subcommittee of 2, and then they would come back and make a few reports to the committee. So I'm sorry, I can't really say anything definitive.
Yes, I checked the last recording of the very last meeting, and if I remember correctly, it was member Radek Johnson and member Beatty. They were researching on it, and I believe the very last meeting, the item was on the agenda, but they didn't have anything to report back because they didn't have anything to report back, so we didn't really have a whole lot of information.
So does that mean that they never got as far as making a report based or that, like, had they made any reports to the full committee at earlier meetings, and this was going to be a follow-up, or was this going to be their first report and they didn't even get as far as that?
I don't recall. Because they would make, I don't even know if it qualifies as a report. They would make some comments about the progress of the research, but I don't recall whether there was something definitive. It seemed, my recollection was that it was quite exploratory.
I just ask before the public comes in, are we going to do possibilities of what we're going to cover one by one and they'll comment on each one? Because I have another one I'd like to throw out there, which is the better way to do that.
I would welcome Eileen or Anne's suggestion about that, whether we want to continue discussing additional topics among ourselves.
Yeah, why don't the members make suggestion on the proposed topic first, all of them, and then the public can comment on all of them.
I would just like to add something for us to look at, which would be the term limits for the city council, which can be 2 4-year terms. And then they could not run, although they could come back and run after that 8-year period. I think my experiences here in Albany is that there have been a lot of folks that have spent a lot of time in the city council, and I would like to see us consider a way to make it more open to more people in the community to be involved, and possibly doing just a 4-year term. I'm not sure about reoccurring after a time period. Would be something I would like to see if we could explore.
Just for clarification for me, I'm trying to make notes that your recommendation on this item is to have 2 4-year terms, but not consecutive, correct?
Well, I'm going to say 1 4-year term and nothing after that. But I'm open to hear what people have to say. And that's my personal opinion. The council or the public.
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah, we can just put on the work plan term limit. And and then it could be a discussion about the term limit.
I'd be interested in exploring that. I don't know if you want to get into substantive discussion about it now, but we could look at historical individuals who served on the council and what their terms of succession have been as evidence to consider, essentially.
I would also want to look at evidence from other jurisdictions, other cities that have imposed tighter term limits to see what the effects of that were. If we're going to explore this.
Yeah, I think getting data would be good to pull together, and also finding out what other jurisdictions are doing too.
There was, when I was reviewing the charter, there was a section 3.18, and I believe Council Member Nason also referenced this when we discussed my appointment. It talks about a breakdown of funds for which the tax rate is spent each year. And I think that would just be helpful for general awareness for people to understand more transparency about the government. I want to understand how this is distributed today. It talks about distribution to property owners and what goes into that report.
Thank you for the suggestion, but I'll have to consult and find out if that is something that would possibly go to a different advisory body, such as the Financial Advisory Committee, versus something that Charter Review is not really in financial. So we would be more interested in sticking with the Charter Review portion. But I will check that out with staff to see if that's the correct answer or if I have misled.
Yep, and I only mention it because it's specified in the charter. I just don't know how it's actually executed. And it was I'm looking at it now, 3.18. 3.18a.
Are there any other topics that that the committee is interested in discussing for possible inclusion?
I just got one other one that came up several months ago that I had to look up, but it was the compensation for the city council members, which I believe is $300 a month. And I was led to believe that that's something that was put into effect maybe 10 years ago, and possibly it's something that should be revisited for economic reasons and the amount of time they spend and so on. So I'd throw that out.
One other comment, and I don't have a position on this. I'd just be interested, just given the national environment around policing. I know I'd be interested in hearing public comment on the charter as it relates to the police department and the duty of police officers. If there's anything that we should consider revising or looking or adding to that in that respect. And I don't have any immediate suggestion, just interested in best practices around the country and also what the public has to say.
I could jump in there. I know there is the policing task force. I think I've got that said correctly. that's about to take, I think, a first meeting at some point, if I've heard correctly. Would this be something where, and I'm not sure how we do this within the structure of things, where we as a committee could recommend to the council that they then turn around and direct that the task force, this be something that they look into, it's a concern of ours? Or do we need to look at maybe anything that's in the charter that's more specific that we ask them to look at?
We can refer that to staff and come back with an answer on that. Thank you.
Just for clarification, if it is determined that another advisory body is the more appropriate body to review a certain topic, but what happens if it's going to be in the charter, that body would look at it, but then charter review is the one that actually look at the language that actually goes into the charter.
Are there any other proposed topics or comments on what we've already proposed from the committee?
I have one other proposal. I'm not sure of the technicalities around it, but I have heard from at least one source that when the school district places tax measures on the ballot, it is restricted in how it provides exemptions for low-income households due to some state law. And the result has been that they've had exemptions for low-income senior households in their tax measures, but not exemptions for all low-income households. And there was the question of whether the city charter could be amended to enable the school district to have more flexibility in how it sets its exemptions for proposed tax measures.
I would second that as something I think we should look into.
And any other proposed
Sorry,
topic?
I should also add, earlier I said charter review committee looks at the language that actually goes in the charter. Actually, it's the language that goes on the ballot measure, then it's up to the voter to actually add it to the charter. So.
And any other proposed topics? If none, I think it's time to open it up to any members of the public who would like to comment.
Before we do that, can I just suggest that since we've thrown quite a lot of ideas on the table here, and I think we may only have one member of the public attending, maybe we should be flexible in allowing more time so that the person can comment one by one on the various things we mentioned if they want to, rather than just one 3-minute window for everything.
I would be open to that. I would prefer not to have 3 minutes times every topic. So could we agree, given what time it is, that it would be no longer than say 10 minutes? Would that? Okay.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. I'm using a different computer than I usually use, so I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. Thank you for the extended time. I don't know if I'll need it. I wanted to just start out by saying that I really support looking at the term limits. Right now, the way it's set up is there's you can be on the city council for 4 years and then another 4 years, and then you have to take 2 years off, then you can go back on. And I can't remember what it is for the school board. And I think it's in a small town like this, I think it's really important that we have more diversity of representation. And I know that when Preston Jordan was running the last time he ran for city council, not the time now where he's on council, that he pointed out that incumbents always win, or win like 99.5% of the time. So it's very difficult once somebody gets onto the city council for somebody else to come along and compete with them, run against them and actually get onto the council. And I think there's a tendency to think that people aren't interested or won't move forward and be interested. But I think that has a lot to do with the fact that we don't leave space for people. We have, up until recently, we've had an all-white council for many, many years. And I think it's because people tend to stay and stay and stay, and other people are intimidated or they don't think there's a place for them. So I think we need to make space. And I think the best way would be at 1 4-year term, and then you're done forever and ever and ever. That's what I would like to see. So I really support you having a discussion about that. And I support the comment about the suggestion about talking about the police department, or any kind of way that the Charter Review Committee could be engaged in that conversation. I would also like to suggest that the entire charter be looked at, the city charter be looked at through a racial and equity lens in terms of the language, and also a gender identity lens. So in terms of the language that's used, does it feel welcoming? Does it feel very white? Does it feel very binary? Does it feel very rigid? Does it feel very, I don't know what you would call it. But I have a feeling that if you went through and looked at the language, that you would discover that, especially if you got people of color to look at it and got some suggestions, there may be other ways of writing it so that it feels more all-inclusive and more supportive of a diverse community. And then there was a suggestion, I tried to write down all the suggestions. There was one about, what were the other suggestions? Police department, city charter, gender identity. There was something else that somebody suggested that I liked the idea of. Oh, it was about the low income. I think it was member Chomsky, and I think that's a really good idea. Again, looking at diversity in our city the lack of diversity. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have become less diverse in the last few years. And I think it's one way we can really look at our diversity is by creating an environment, economic and other kinds of environment, that really support people of color moving into our community, being able to afford to live in our community. This would extend to, of course, policies about housing and all sorts of other policies. But anyway, I think that we could be a much more inclusive, all-inclusive community. And I think there are a lot of ways that we could approach that. And so I would really encourage you to look at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public
No,
who
there's
would
not.
like to?
There are no other public comments.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is to discuss any future agenda items. And I would think one of them would be continuing our discussion about the work plan.
So regarding the proposals that we just put out as for our potential work plan items, should we be trying to make any more progress tonight in like identifying which of those we want to work on or which ones individuals would like to take up, or subcommittees, or would that, have we done enough on that, just made enough progress in that discussion for tonight, or should we try to get it to be more concrete?
I'm open to hearing what folks have to say.
So you can continue the work plan discussion if you like tonight, and identify, which ones you do want to keep on the work plan, which one you want to leave off. Of course, we can come back with a draft work plan at the next meeting where you can, take a motion if that's what your recommendation to the council would be. In terms of subcommittees, you can't really start any subcommittee discussion until the work plan item has been approved by the council as a work plan item. Since right now we don't have a previous work plan to work on. So charter review work plan would have to wait until it is approved by the council before you start to work on or form subcommittee to work on the items for the work plan.
So is the next step for staff to write up the topics that we just mentioned in the form of a proposed work plan? And then would we look at that list one more time before it goes to council for approval? Is that the timeline?
Correct. That's what I would suggest.
Okay. So it seems like next month we will definitely be wanting to look at the draft work plan. Staff, do you feel that you have enough information and ideas from us to write that draft work plan now, or do you want us to discuss some of the, or pin down some of the ideas more?
I have quite a list here of different ideas you have recommended. And I think at this point, we might want to, first of all, look at what you do have, because first of all, we can't take them all, because we're only meeting every other month, and this is only for a 2-year period. And these are big topics. It isn't something that we just say, one meeting, this is going to be the work plan. Next meeting, we work on it. No, it's done. Send it to council. I mean, as far as that item or that section, I know that if for some reason we were very ambitious and got through a work plan and we have more time left afterwards, I believe there might be the possibility to go back to the council and ask if we could have a revision to the work plan.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that we try to come up with more topics. I guess my question is, have we identified what the topics are clearly enough for you to write it into a work plan now, or do you need us to pin down what we are actually saying more tightly?
Well,
are these proposals clear enough?
I think we need the topics first, and then the ones that look like the ones that really everybody's interested in. Then we would then expand what you really wanted to say on the final document that goes to the council.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there anything more you'd like from us tonight, or should we just plan to continue the conversation at the next meeting once you've had your chance to write a draft?
I defer to Anne. I think we have enough, but I will defer it to Anne to make sure, since she has run it in the past, that she feels we have enough at this point this evening. Anne?
It is really up to the discretion of the committee member. If you guys would like to suggest more, that is totally fine.
No, I just want to clarify.
No, but what I'm saying is you can suggest more today, and next meeting you guys go through and go, okay, we really want these items and not these items. And also bear in mind, you may have you actually may have as many items going to council as you want. Just bear in mind that you may not have all the items approved by council.
I just want to clarify, I'm not asking if you want us to come up with more items. I'm asking if you want us to be
No,
more precise and clarify the items we've already mentioned.
Yes, I understand that, but I'm just saying, if you do want to come up with more items, it's fine.
Okay.
And if you want to give more information tonight, you can, or if you want to give more information next meeting, you can do that too. So if you guys feel like you gave enough information tonight, then we can go on to the next item. But if you'd like to add more to tonight, we will take notes on those too.
The only thing I would just like to add from the person from the public that commented about the language of the charter, as opposed to making that one particular topic, would be for us to consider that in the ones that come back from staff, to see if there's anything that we should consider about how the wording is used, the way the person from the public raised it.
I just want to make sure I understood that. Were you suggesting that we do that review only in the sections that we're thinking about modifying in terms of changes to the charter, as opposed to the whole thing holistically?
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly go with the holistic idea, but I was thinking that maybe we'd have more success just looking at the language and the ones that we're talking about right here. But I'm open to that, the holistic angle too. Seems like a big thing to deal with though.
Yeah, I think if we really wanted to take the suggestion from the public commenter seriously, we would want to do it holistically, and we'd also want it to not just be us looking at it, but to reach out and find a more diverse group of readers to give us feedback on it. I think if we just sit here and say, oh, we think this is perfectly inclusive, so we approve it, that doesn't amount to much.
Yeah, I
Agree.
I understand. I don't think I would be a particularly good person, but I think it's an important topic.
My own preference would be to move on to just finalizing the future agenda items tonight. I heard a lot of very interesting ideas from people, and what I really want to do is spend some time with the charter between now and the next meeting to get a better sense about how those proposals might actually fit with the type of work that the charter committee does. I don't think I'm saying that very eloquently, but there's just a lot of information there, and I would personally appreciate some time to just go over that list in my own mind, read the charter, and then plunge in for a fuller discussion in the next meeting.
And it sounded like we needed to get specific feedback from staff on the scope of the charter review committee in regards to at least two of the items that I brought up, the policing, the scope of that, and then the tax transparency.
So that being said, can we resume discussing the last agenda item, which is the future agenda items at this point? I don't sense any opposition to that. So if we could just move back to that. And so certainly continuing the discussion about the work plan would be on the next agenda. Are there any other items?
Can we specifically request feedback from staff on the two items that I just mentioned as part of the agenda?
Certainly.
We can put it under announcement and let you guys know the response.
Okay.
Chair Schneider, can I just ask you a question? Given your tenure with the committee, what was it like in terms of, was there a lot of public comment that you were able to take in and work on, or was it the city council that came up with ideas that needed to be dealt with? Or I'm just curious what the history might be or how things work.
I would say less so from public comment. Certainly the school board had one or two ideas regarding term limits, and then we also heard from our treasurer, and then the rest. I would say most of it was from city council, and then some of it was from things that were initiated by the Charter Review Committee. For example, the discussion about a ranked choice voting is a rather large item for research.
Yeah.
But not so much members of the public apart from, for example, school boards.
Okay, thank you.
I have to say, and Lisa will probably agree with me, that we typically don't have that many members of the public that was interested in attending the Charter Review Committee meeting. Hopefully now that it's online, we might trigger more interest, or people are able to attend a little more. I'm just going to read a section from it's the committee purpose. So the committee purpose is the Charter Review Committee advises the City Council on proposed changes to the city charter. These proposed changes may be generated by the City Council or by the Charter Review Committee. So if a member of the public suggests a change, they would either speak at this City Council meeting, or they would speak at our meeting, the Charter Review meeting. But if it's on a topic that's not on the work plan, it would have to be a work plan amendment that goes to the City Council for the City Council to approve work plan amendment before the Charter Review can discuss it.
Thank you for that clarification.
I just want to make sure I understand the sequence of the steps here. So we, the work plan, get clarification on items in the work plan. Next time we prioritize what we want to send to City Council, and then they come back and approve it. Is that the right order, or did I miss something there?
I'm sorry, you said the order. Okay, so I probably didn't catch everything you said, but the order is the staff will write up the draft work plan and bring it back with all the comment and feedback from this meeting, bring back to the next meeting, and you guys would look at it and decide if there's ones that you want to keep, ones that you don't want to keep on the work plan. Then you guys would take a vote to whether those are if that is the work plan that you want to send to council, to recommend to council. And then council would, at one of the future meeting, one member from here would go to city council and present our work plan, and council would approve items, or maybe they might even give you more other items, or they would approve the item that you have on there, and then it would be an approved work plan that will be uploaded onto the website, and it would be shared with all of you.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
So as far as future agenda items, it seems that really the only thing we can put on our agenda for now is to try to finish our draft work plan, our proposed work plan. Anything else that we might want to do would have to come from the work plan, which would need to be approved first. Is that correct?
Probably, yes. And you have to remember there are some committees and commissions that have been already working on their work plan, and they are much further ahead, and they aren't all presented at the same meeting to council. They are staggered going on, but we do need to concentrate on what our work plan is, so we do know what we will be doing. Yes.
So as of now, our future agenda items consist of work on the work plan, but it seems like that's perfectly appropriate at this stage, that we don't, that our entire agenda is try to finish setting up the work plan.
Right. So then once it's approved by council, then you will have the opportunity to start taking things off from your work plan and start working on them, whether they be as a group or as a subcommittee.
And just to clarify, can items be added to the work plan later?
They can be added, but it has to go to council to be approved as a revised work plan.
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
One addition, one added point to that is the only time that you can't make an amendment to the work plan is, so it's a 2-year work plan. It's after November of the second year, you can't amend the work plan. Because that's pretty much the end of the 2-year.
Well, they wouldn't have a meeting anyways because they only meet on odd months and they wouldn't be meeting in December.
No, you can't, no, not November either. No amendment going to council after
Basically
November
just
1st.
after the election, right?
After November 1st.
Yep.
I think that's all the future agenda items.
Yes. Don't hear any others. So if there is nothing else, we've come to the end of the agenda, and I think it's appropriate to close the meeting tonight.
Just a reminder, the next meeting is May 20th, Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think you've given us a good list to work with. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, y'all.